This particular broadcast is we're gonna go over a document I discovered in my search of for a PDF of the Bill of Exchange Act, and I came across this Bill of Exchange. Let's see what type of information this document uh, can provide for us in understanding bills of exchange. Let's get it.
Bills of exchange and promissory notes. 1622. 1. Bills of exchange. It is general practice that when goods are sold or services are provided, the seller extends a credit period to buyer. Sometimes, the seller may not be in a position to offer credit period and the purchase is not in a position to pay immediately. In such circumstances, the seller would like that the purchaser should give a definite promise in writing to pay the amount of the goods on a certain date, which he can use to generate immediate funds. Commercial practice has developed to treat these written promises into valuable instruments of credit that when a written promise is made in proper form and is properly stamped, it is expected that the buyer discharges his debt and the seller receives payment. This is because written promises are often accepted by banks and money is advanced against them. Also, they can be endorsed, i.e., passed on from person to person. The written promise is either in the form of a bill of exchange or in the form of a promissory note. A bill of exchange has been defined as an instrument in writing containing an unconditional order signed by the maker directing certain person to pay a certain sum of money only to or to the order of a certain person or to the bearer of the instrument. When such an order is accepted in writing on the face of the order itself, it becomes a valid bill of exchange. Suppose A orders B to pay $50,000 for 3 months after date, and B accepts this order by signing his name, then it will be a bill of exchange. A bill of exchange has the following characteristics. It must be in writing. It must be dated. It must contain an order to pay a certain sum of money. The promise to pay must be unconditional. The money must be payable to a definite person or to his order to the bearer. The draft must be accepted for payment by the party to whom the order is made. It should be properly stamped, except in case of bills payable on demand. Payment must be in legal currency of the country. The party which makes the order is known as the drawer. The party which accepts the order is known as the acceptor, and the party to whom the amount has to be paid is known as the pay. The drawer and the pay can be the same. A bill of exchange can be passed on to another person by endorsement. Endorsement on a bill of exchange is made exactly as it is done in the case of a check. The primary liability on a bill of exchange is that of the acceptor. If he does not pay, a holder can recover the amount from any of the previous endorsers or the drawee. Sometimes, it may happen that a bill of exchange is drawn for foreign trade operations. Such a bill is known as foreign bill of exchange. A foreign bill of exchange is one which is drawn in one country and is payable in another. It is generally drawn up in triplicate wherein each copy is sent by separate post so that at least one copy reaches the intended party. Payment will be made only on one of the copies, and when such payment is made the other copies become useless. Section 12 of the Negotiable Instruments Act provides that all instruments, which are not inland instrument, are foreign. 1644. A specimen of foreign bill of exchange is given below. 1150. 000, New Delhi, July 2022. 90 days after date of this first bill of exchange, second and third of the same tenure and date being unpaid, paid to the order of M/S Vincent John and Associates, London, the sum of rupees 11,50,000 only, value received. 2. Wallace Sons accepted. M/IONX, Wallace Sons, stamp. Birmingham, UK. Drawee. The following are examples of foreign bills. A bill drawn in India on a person resident outside India and made payable outside India. A bill drawn outside India on a person resident outside India. A bill drawn outside India and made payable in India. A bill drawn outside India and made payable outside India. 2. Promissory notes. A promissory note is an instrument in writing, not being a bank note or currency note containing an unconditional undertaking signed by the maker to pay a certain sum of money only to or to the order of a certain person. Under Section 31(2) of the Reserve Bank of India Act, a promissory note cannot be made payable to bearer. A promissory note has the following characteristics. It must be in writing. It must contain a clear promise to pay. Mere acknowledgement of a debt is not a promissory note. The promise to pay must be unconditional. I promise to pay $50,000 as soon as I can is not an unconditional promise. The promisor or maker must sign the promissory note. The maker must be a certain person. The person to whom the payment is promised, must also be certain. The sum payable must be certain. I promise to pay $50,000 plus all fine is not certain. Payment must be in legal currency of the country. It should not be made payable to the bearer. It should be properly stamped. It does not require any acceptance. Specimen of promissory note. Specimen of a promissory note. 10-00-000/ only Rohan. 77, Sector 12, Ghaziabad. March.
Let's go back up, because we need to discuss this. She moving a little too fast, okay? Let's go back up. That's a little hard to follow along, all right? A bill of exchange has the following characteristics. Let's stick to that. It must be in writing, okay? Boom. Let's first identify that. It must be dated. All right. Let's only highlight the word dated. Why? Because that factor includes words that determine a time. Okay. For example, on demand. We'll put this in here. On demand. The words on demand. Eliminate need for a date, because it's understood that whenever they receive or the item is delivered and it's considered as received, they are expected as soon as they receive the instructions, that the instructions is giving predated time of event when it should occur on demand. Whenever you, that means just means basically whenever you receive the order, a person may commence following the instructions that are provided on the order to do. Okay, it must contain an order to pay. That's number 3. It must contain an order to pay. Okay, so whenever they receive the order, it's already one of the does that. A bill of exchange must contain in order to pay. Now, we need to do a little more research on what the word pay means, but we'll just accept it as pay means pay in your understanding of what the word pay means is fine for this demonstration. Okay, it must contain in order to pay a certain sum of money. And it says a certain, well, it says certain sum of money. Okay, well, a certain sum meaning there shouldn't be two or three or four different amounts order to pay. So if you receive a bill or document ordering to pay, and they have more than one number on that document, that is not a legal order to pay. Okay, that is not a bill of exchange and has been defined. It cannot be defined as an instrument in writing containing an unconditional order. It needs to be signed by the maker, directing certain persons to pay a certain sum of money only to or to the order of. We need to understand too, right, or to the order of a certain person or to the bearer of the instrument. When such an order When such an order is accepted in writing on the face of the order itself, it becomes a valid bill of exchange. When such an order is accepted, I apologize, you all. I'll have to take this call. Thank you all for your patience. And we are back. Thanks for your patience. We were going over the criteria for a bill of exchange. A bill of exchange has the following characteristics. Um, we've already discussed it must be in writing, it must have a date or terms of initiation, like the words on demand. It must contain an order to pay a certain sum of money. And so, just like a check, similar to a check that has the sum of money written in words and figures, the promise to pay must be unconditional. Years ago, when people used checks more commonly, at the bottom of those checks it had the words non-negotiable. Okay, that means the promise to pay must be unconditional, meaning uh, that is your definite decision uh, for the or a conscious decision of the drawer or the drawee to uh, pay. All right. The money must be payable to a definite person or to his order to the bearer. Now, do we understand what that means? The money must be payable to a definite person. Well, we in general might can understand that. But when it goes on and says or, that means we need to reset. The money must be payable to his order. Who is his? And then it says to the bearer. The money must be payable to the bearer. Okay, those are the conditions um, to to his order to the bearer. Now, that would appear to be two different people. To his order to the bearer. Let's highlight that because that's not self-explanatory. Those are facts that are relative. To his order or to a definite person so it needs to be payable to a definite person or to his order to the bearer. What does that mean? That could be interpreted in so many different ways. Okay. The money must be payable to his order to the bearer. Hmm. Um, My only understanding of money and or how this could be applicable is this section that speaks to his order to the bearer, okay, is when you have a check is drawn upon your account, right? And you write out a check saying in the pay section, uh, the account holder, all right, to his order. Um, into the bearer, accounts receivable. They are the bearer, all right, of the note or the order, okay, the draft to pay. And that order would specifically be drafted upon, say, for example, your business account. Uh, Perhaps that's um, you're contracted with Bank of America, okay? And so you have a check book with which you can draw upon the interest in that account and uh, draft in order to pay. That's called a checkbook, okay? The same similar situated situation occurs with a money order. The difference is that, say for example, you're utilizing that instrument. That's the person, the instrument is a broker. Um, they would then uh, tally the money that you gave them in as it with which you can draw from their account. Okay, so it's all the same. And right now, the check from your account, the money order is then uh, positioned as a check written on their account, sort of hypothetically. Okay, just to get an understanding of what's going on here. All right. The draft must be accepted for payment by the party to whom the order is made. The draft must be accepted. Just highlight it. Okay. And just be separating the understanding. The draft must be accepted for payment. So when you see the words pay or payment, here we go. Here's the association to what the true understanding of what a payment is. The draft is the payment by the party to whom the order is made. Whoever wrote the check out is making a payment. It's understood. Whoever wrote the money order out is making a payment. Okay? And as it said up here in the other criteria, to a certain person for a certain sum. If here it says to the order of a certain person or to the bearer of the interface it becomes a valid bill of exchange. It becomes a valid bill of exchange. Doesn't tell you how when it's accepted, and it's in writing on the face. You need to understand what on the face means. On the face is a core term that means clear as day. It's written. Clear as day is written. It was accepted in writing on the face of the order itself. It becomes a valid bill of exchange. Suppose A orders B to pay B a bill of exchange. A bill of exchange has the following characteristics. It must be in writing. It must be, it must be unconfirmed. It should be properly stamped except in case of bills payable on demand. It should be properly stamped. Okay. Except in case of bills payable on demand. As something and is known as the drawer. The party which accepts the order is known as the acceptor. And the party to whom the amount has to be paid, the amount has to be paid, and the party to whom the amount has to be paid is known as the payee. Okay. The drawer and the payee. Let's separate that. Okay. The drawer and the payee can be the same. Hmm. A bill of exchange can be passed on to another person by endorsement. Endorsement on a bill of exchange is made exactly as it is done in the case of a check. Okay, we discussed that. The primary liability on a bill of exchange is that of the acceptor. If he does not pay, a holder can recover the amount from any of the previous endorsers or the drawee. Okay. if he does not pay. Okay. The primary liability on a bill of exchange is that of the acceptor. All right. They're holding the primary liability. All right. Who who accepted it is the question here. We want to know. Okay. We write that in big bold letters. Primary liability. Okay. Is on the acceptor. Sorry about that. Now, why are we talking about liability, and what does that have to do with the bill of exchange? A bill of exchange is a financial instrument, as we discussed earlier. Whenever you have an opportunity for someone to have a financial interest in increasing or procuring money, then now we're talking about something that can be considered by the court as a contract, all right? And it's ruled under contract law. Now let's see what this says. By the maker directing certain persons to pay a certain sum of money to or to the order of a certain person or to the bearer of the issue when such an order is accepted in writing on the face. Okay, so if you, for example, wrote a check to T-Mobile and then T-Mobile disconnect your services because Bank of America didn't honor that check, that lack of honoring the check creates a liability on their part, okay? Because clearly you said, okay, you wrote the check out and you said, pay this check out to T-Mobile on this date, and your bill's due on the 29th, so you wrote the check out to be paid on the 20th in advance, and Bank of America did not honor it on the 25th. You had that certain sum of money in collateral in your account to cover that issuance. We just said this to make it simple for people who don't know about the credit and all that secured credit aspect of it. And so, just on its face, the liability falls on Bank of America to honor that check. If they do not dishonor it, the liability, meaning who can be sued. When you speak about liability, like who can be sued for action or inaction, all right? That's kind of like the simplest way to understand that, what liability means. The money must be payable to a definite person, okay? The draft must be accepted for payment by the party to whom the order is made, okay? And so T-Mobile said, if they say, oh, we don't, this is a different company, and they say, well, we no longer accept checks for payment. And then, as a form of payment, then, I should say,
specifically personal checks. All right, as we don't honor personal checks any longer. Okay, well, what form of payment do you accept? Well, when you get into secure transactions and so forth and so on, the refusal of a personal check can be considered as a violation. So that wouldn't even probably be a scenario you may face. But so we are definitely speaking of hypotheticals. All right. Um, Especially when people need to understand that these rules are not applicable in the private, they are applicable in the public. Okay, meaning any kind of publicly traded company, such as T-Mobile, would need to be compliant uh, to uh, follow these rules or operate under the guidelines of these rules. Okay, that govern the type of entity that they uh, do business in the public. So these are the rules that govern that. All right. So for a payment by the party to whom the order is made, this is where the draft is made to T-Mobile. Okay, and then they accept the check and you sent it by mail with a stamp on the mail stating that you sent payment on or before the 25th as agreed, all right, and you performed under the contract or agreement, assumed agreement, what have you. It should be properly stamped, okay? You sent it through the mail and stamped, except in cases of bills payable on demand, all right? Payment must be in legal currency of the country. All right. So at the end of the payment amount, you may put the words U.S. currency or such and such dollars. Okay, payment must be in legal currency of the country. The party which makes the order is known as the drawer. All right. You drew it up, you drafted it, you the draw. The party which accepts the order is known as the acceptor, and the party to whom the amount has to be paid is known as the payee. And so, for the purposes of understanding that when you are the drawer, you're drawing for yourself, okay, to pay the payee. As the payee, you are the first of all the uh, acceptor, the party which accepts the order, but your position changed to be the drawer once you draft order to pay. You're then a drawer, and the party to whom the amount has to be paid is known as the payee. Then I would say T-Mobile is the payee, all right, becomes a payee. But actually, T-Mobile itself cannot be a payee. And so what they purport to be the payee in secure transactions would be um, the account, the principal, which we back at you being the principal or payee. Um, and so I say purport because, oh wow, we have to get into the reality of the situation. that a publicly traded company uh, would be setting up that public trade utilizing the accounts uh, that you created. And so that's like paying yourself. You paying yourself. Okay, owe for this bill, pay for this bill right here, you know. And you said, and I got money over here. I'm a shareholder of T-Mobile. Okay, so just take some of my interest in the company and apply that towards whatever you claiming that I owe the company. All right, that's what people are attempting to do with proper performance to pay the bill. Okay, they always send you with the bill. They always send you an invoice. They always send it may be called a bill, but it's equivalent to an invoice. In the invoice, they'll always send you area that you can fill out and send back. In my court case, they gave me a paper that said that I'm contracting with the court registry that basically allowed them as a third party to interfere in the matter between me and the defendant. Because once you make an appeal, you no longer are the defendant, you are the plaintiff in an appeal. It switches the roles. And so I basically wrote cancellation and rescission of contract to allow them to even require that I pay them money on the sideline, and they have no uh, right to interest in this matter. Okay, real talk. And I don't know if that documentation on the record uh, or composite of facts on the record that perfected my uh, appeal, but the appeal was perfected because I did do what is customary in the Federal Rules of Procedure. I sent a brief, and I also sent uh, what do you call that? Uh, uh, I sent a formal brief, and it had all the appendices and point of authority and so forth, case summary, and a composite of all the facts uh, that I could uh, include in that brief um, without exceeding the word limits, because they do have word limits and the amount of papers you can send and the amount of this and a limit on that of how much can be sent in and placed on the record. And so I made sure that I stuck to the point and stuck with the facts that needed it. You really didn't need no full all-out explanation if you're dealing with facts. Facts are usually self-explanatory and can be predetermined as facts. Uh, when you got a illusory story, then you got to do all that talking. But if we stick to the facts of the case and there's not much explanation needed for a fact. That part. And so it can easily minimize when you're sticking to the facts. Let's move on. The drawer and the payee can be the same. Let's be clear. The drawer and the payee can be the same. A bill of exchange can be passed on to another person by endorsement. Endorsement on a bill of exchange is made exactly as it is done in the case of a check. The primary liability on a bill of exchange is that of the acceptor. Okay. If he does not pay, a holder can recover the amount from any of the previous endorsers or the drawee. Sometimes it may happen that a bill of exchange is drawn for foreign trade operations. Such a bill is known as foreign bill of exchange. A foreign bill of exchange is one which is drawn in one country and is payable in another. It is generally drawn upon in triplicate wherein each copy is sent by separate post so that at least one copy reaches the intended party. Wow. I'm assuming this is just evident in action when you use a 1099, Form 1099A. For those who are familiar with that process. Also, in court practices, you have to have 3 copies. Okay, 3 certified copies sent to uh, the court. That's one witness. To the defendant. That's 2. Uh, and also, you have 1 copy for your, maintain a copy for yourself. That makes 3 copies. They also, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, recommend 4 copies. Um, and I'm not 100% sure about it, but I think that is purpose for your, extra protection. Make sure the judge gets a copy, and then you have a copy for court records. But moving right along. Okay, let's stick to the 3 copy situation. Triplicate wherein each copy is sent by separate post so that at least 1 copy reaches the intended party. Payment will be made only on one of the copies. And when such payment is made, the other copies become useless. Section 12 of the Negotiable Instruments Act provides that all instruments which are not inland instruments are foreign. It takes a default position of being a foreign instrument. A specimen of foreign bill of exchange is given below. A specimen, okay, they got an example. 90 days after date of this first bill of exchange, second and third of the same tenure, and date being unpaid. Paid to the order of Miss Vincent John and Associates, London. The sum of rupees 11 lakh 50,000 only, value received. 2. Wallace Son. Accepted by Wallace Son. Stamp. Okay, they're showing you where the position of the stamp needs to be. Draw E. The following are examples of foreign bills. A bill drawn in India on a person resident outside India and made payable outside India. A bill drawn outside India and on a person India on a person resident outside India. A bill drawn outside India and made payable in India. A bill drawn outside India and made payable outside of India. Pay attention how the positions change, but the point is it's going from one place to another. Promissory notes. A promissory note is an instrument in writing, not being a bank note or currency note containing an unconditional undertaking signed by the maker to pay a certain sum of money only to or to the order of a certain person under Section 31(2) of the Reserve Bank of India Act. A promissory note cannot be made payable to bearer. Okay. A promissory note has the following characteristics. It must be in writing. It must contain a clear promise to pay. Mere acknowledgement of a debt is not a promissory note. The promise to pay must be unconditional. For example, I promise to pay $50,000 as soon as I can. It's not an unconditional promise. The promisor or maker must sign the promissory note. The maker must be a certain person. The payee, the person to whom the payment is promised, must also be certain. The sum payable must be certain. I promise to pay $50,000 plus all fine is not certain. So when the court tell you you got to pay the court plus all fines and court costs, that is not a certain term. Okay. Payment must be in legal currency of the country. Okay. It should not be made payable to the bearer. Now this is when you're drafting, the understanding when you're drafting or you have received a promissory note. It should not be made payable to the bearer. It should be properly stamped. It should be properly stamped. And it does not require any acceptance. Does not require any acceptance. Okay. Okay. That is a very key aspect. It does not, a promissory note it doesn't require you to accept anyone to accept the note. I need to look into that. Okay. I wonder what the implications is if they do accept the note. need to really look into that. The specimen of promissory note. Okay, here we go. An example of a promissory note for, oh, some zeros missing out of that. But anyway, uh, I'm assuming that's supposed to be 10 million. I'll put a zero in there. Okay, only specimen of a promissory note. Okay, Rohan 77, Sector 12. It's March. Okay, it has a date on it. All right. 3 months after date, I promise to pay prior or his order the sum of 10 lucky only for value received. Okay. To prior is 11 Rohan Dirhan. All right. You got the stamp. Uh, Payee maker. Okay. Three differences. Bill of exchange and promissory note. A bill contains an order to pay. A promissory note contains only a promise to pay certain sum of money. There are generally three parties, drawee, and payee in a bill of exchange. There are two parties, maker and payee, in legal promissory note. Okay. A bill is paid by acceptor. A promissory note is paid by maker. A promissory note is made by debtor. In promissory note, maker and payee cannot be the same person. In a promissory note, the liability of a maker is primary and absolute. A promissory note cannot be made conditionally. Notice of dishonor is not required in the case of a promissory note. Notice and protest is not required in the case of dishonor of a promissory note. In case of dishonor, okay, let's go back up and see what the requirements is in a bill of exchange. A bill is paid by the acceptor. A bill is drawn by a creditor. The drawer and payee may be the same person in case of bill of exchange. In a pay bill of exchange, the liability of the drawer is secondary and conditional. He will be liable only in case the acceptor does not honor the bill. A bill of exchange can be accepted conditionally. In a bill of exchange, notice of dishonor must be given. In case of dishonor, a bill of exchange must be noted and protested. Okay, and that's what we do in the learning to do, how to do, um, building a case based on notice of dishonor in cases of conflict of interest or breach of contract. You have those elements um, with which to build your claim upon, and so that it is letting you know what the procedure for making a claim against a bill. A bill of exchange can be accepted conditionally In a bill of exchange, notice of dishonor must be given. In case of dishonor, a bill of exchange must be noted and protested. Okay. Record of bills of exchange and promissory notes. A party which receives a promissory note or receives an accepted bill of exchange will treat it as a new asset under the name of bills receivable. Will treat it as a new asset under the name of bills receivable. Mm. A party which issues a promissory note or accepts a bill of exchange will treat it as a new liability under the head of bills payable. We shall first deal with the entries in the books of the party which receives promissory notes or bills. When we talk of bills, we include promissory notes also. On receipt of bills, the payee makes the following entry in his book of accounts. Bills receivable account. DR. To draw E, maker of the note. A accepts a bill of exchange drawn on him by B. In the book of B, the entry will be bills receivable account. DR. To A sends to B the acceptance deed. In this case, also the entry in the books of B will be bills receivable account to A. The person who received the bill has three options. These are: he can hold the bill till maturity. Naturally, in this case, no further entry is passed until the date of maturity arrives. The bill can be endorsed in favor of another party. Says Z, in this case, the entry will be to debit the party which now receives the bill and to credit the bill's receivable account of Z. The bill's receivable account, the bills of exchange can be discounted with Banc. The bank will deduct a small sum of money as discount and pay rest of the money, the rest of the money. Bank account with the amount actually received. Discount account with the amount of loss or discount. To bills receivable account. This happens a lot of time when you broker an insurance policy to get the money up front. They'll charge you a fee, like cashing a check. They'll charge you a fee to broker that instrument and consider it as a valid instrument. Okay. On the date of maturity, there will be two possibilities. The first is that the bill will be paid. That is to say, met or honored. All right. Let's get the reader to read this for us. Okay. And then we can discuss it.
On the day of maturity, there will be two possibilities. The first is that the bill will be paid, that is to say, met or honored. The entries for this will depend upon what was done to the bill during the period of maturity. If the bill was kept, the cash will be received by the party which originally received the bill. In his books, therefore, the entry will be Bank account doctor to bills receivable account. But if he has already endorsed the bill in favor of his creditor, or if the bill has been discounted with the bank, he will not get the amount. It will be the creditor or the bank which will receive the money. Therefore, in these two cases, no entry will be made in the books of the party which originally received the bill. The second possibility is that the bill will be dishonored. That is to say, the bill will not be paid. If the bill is dishonored, the bill becomes useless and the party from whom the bill was received will be liable to pay the amount and also the expenses incurred by the party. Therefore, the following entries will be made. 1. If the bill was kept till maturity, then DROI/maker account doctor to bills receivable account. 1688. If the bill was endorsed in favor of a creditor, the entry is DROI/maker account doctor to creditor account. If the bill was discounted with the bank, DROI/maker account doctor to bank account. Thus, it will be seen that in case of dishonor, the party which gave the bill has to be debited because he has become liable to pay the amount. The credit entry is in bills receivable account if it was retained, or the creditor or the bank if it was endorsed/discounted in their favor. 5. Term of a bill. The term of bill of exchange may be of any duration. Usually the term does not exceed 90 days from the date of the bill. When a bill is drawn after cite, the term of the bill begins to run from the date of citing, i.e., when the bill is accepted. When a bill is drawn after date, the term of the bill begins to run from the date of drawing the bill. 6. Expiry/due date of a bill. The date on which the term of the bill terminates is called as expiry/due date of the bill. 7. Days of grace. Every instrument payable otherwise than on demand is entitled to 3 days of grace. 8. Date of maturity of bill. The date which comes after adding 3 days of grace to the expiry/due date of a bill is called the date of maturity. The maturity of a promissory note or bill of exchange is the date at which it falls due. Every promissory note or bill of exchange gets matured on the 3rd day after the day on which it is expressed to be payable, except when it is expressed to be payable on demand, at sight, or on presentment. 9. Bill at sight. Bill at sight means the instruments in which no time for payment is mentioned. A check is always payable on demand. A promissory note or bill of exchange is payable on demand when no time for payment is specified, or when it is expressed to be payable on demand, or at sight or on presentment. Notes: at sight and presentment means on demand. An instrument payable on demand may be presented for payment at any time. Days of grace is not to be added to calculate maturity for such types of bill. 10. Bill after date. Bill after date means the instrument in which time for payment is mentioned. A promissory note or bill of exchange is a time instrument when it is expressed to be payable after a specified period, on a specific day, after sight, on the happening of event which is certain to happen. Notes. The expression after sight means in a promissory note after presentment for sight, in a bill of exchange after acceptance or noting for non-acceptance or protest for non-acceptance. A check cannot be a time instrument because the check is always payable on demand, though a check can be post-dated and which can be presented on or after such date. A check has validity of 90 days from its date. After that it becomes void, normally termed as stale check, as bank will not honor such check. 61. 1010. 11. How to calculate due date of a bill. The due date of each bill is calculated as follows. Case. Due date. A. When the bill is made payable on a specific date. A. That specific date will be the due date. B. When the bill is made payable at a stated number of months as after date. B. That date on which the term of the bill shall expire will be the due date. Note: the term shall expire on that day of the month which corresponds with the day on which the bill is dated. If the month in which the period terminates has no corresponding day, the period shall be deemed to expire on the last day of such a month. For example, a bill signed on January 31st payable after 3 months will be due on May 3rd. C. When the bill is made payable at a stated number of days after date. C. That date which comes after adding stated number of days to the date of bill shall be the due date. Note: The date of bill is excluded. D. When the due date is a public holiday. D. The preceding business day will be the due date. E. When the due date is an emergency/unforeseen holiday. E. The next following day will be the date. Note, the term of a bill after cite commences from the date of acceptance of the bill, whereas the term of a bill after date commences from the date of drawing of bill. 12. Noting charges. It is necessary that the fact of dishonor and the causes of dishonor should be established. If the acceptor can prove that the bill was not properly presented to him for payment, he may escape liability. Therefore, if there is dishonor or fear of dishonor, the bill will be given to a public official known as notary public. These officials present the bill for payment, and if the money is received, they will hand over the money to the original party. But if the bill is dishonored, they will note the fact of dishonor with the reasons and give the bill back to their client. For this service, they charge a small fee. This fee is known as noting charges. The amount of noting charges is recoverable from the party which is responsible for dishonor. Suppose X received from Y a bill for $1,000. On maturity, the bill is dishonored and 10 is paid as noting charges. The entry in this case will be Y. Doctor. 1,010. To bills receivable account. 1,000. To Bank A/C. 10. Suppose X had endorsed this bill in favor of Z. In that case, entry for dishonored bill would have been Y Doctor. 1,010. To Z 1,010. This is because Z will claim 1,010 from X and X has the right of recovering 1,010 from Y. Similarly, if the bill has been discounted with a bank, entry will be Y Doctor. 1,010. To Bank A/C 1,010. 13. Renewal of bill. Sometimes the acceptor is unable to pay the amount, and he himself moves that he should be given extension of time, and in consideration agrees to bear interest for the extended time period, calculated from the date of maturity of old bill till the date of expected settlement. In such a case, a new bill will be drawn and the old bill will be canceled. If this happens, entries should be passed for cancellation of the old bill. This is done exactly as already explained for dishonor. When the new bill is received, entries for the receipt of the bill will be repeated. The amount of the new bill may represent any of the following. Where the drawee pays nothing, total of amount of original bill as well as the interest for the extended time period. Where the drawee pays the interest amount at the time of renewal, amount of the original bill. Where the drawee makes part payment of the original bill or interest amount or both, unpaid part of total of amount of original bill as well as the interest for the extended time period on such amount. 61. 1212. 14. Retirement of bills of exchange and rebate. We have seen that renewal of a bill of exchange is made when a person does not have sufficient fund to pay for the bill of exchange on the due date, and he requires a further period of credit. Many a time instances do arise when the acceptor has spare funds much before the maturity date of the bill of exchange accepted by him. In such circumstances, he approaches the payee of the bill of exchange and asks him whether the payee is prepared to accept cash before the maturity date. In such cases, the acceptor gets a certain rebate or interest or discount for premature payment. The rebate becomes the income of the acceptor and expense of the payee. It is a consideration of premature payment. Illustration 1. Ms. Sujata receives 2 bills from Ms. Aruna dated January 1st, 2022 for 2 months. The first bill is for $10,200 and the second bill is for $15,000. The first bill is discounted immediately with the bank for $10,000 and the second bill was endorsed in favor or Mr. Shri on January 3rd, 2022. Pass the necessary journal entries in the books of Ms. Sujata. Solution. In the books of Sujata journal entries. Date. Particulars.
Elif.
Doctor. CR. January 1st, 2022. Bills receivables A/C. Doctor. 25,200. To Aruna A/C. 25,200. January 1st, 2022. Being 2 bills receivable from Aruna, 10,000. Bank A/C. Doctor. Discount charges A/C. Doctor. 200. To bills receivable A/C. 10,200. March 1st, 2022. Being the bills receivable discounted with the bank at a charge of 200. 15,000. 15,000. Shri A/C. To bills receivable A/C. Being bill endorsed in favor of Mr. Shri. Doctor. Illustration 2. VJ sold goods to Freedom on September 1st, 2022 for 106,000. Freedom immediately accepted a 3-month bill. On due date, Freedom requested that the bill be renewed for a fresh period of 2 months. VJ agrees, provided interest at 9% PA was paid immediately in cash. To this, Freedom was agreeable. The second bill was met on due date. Give journal entries in the books of VJ and Freedom. Solution. Books of VJ Journal. 2022. September 1st. Freedom. Doctor. 106,000. To sales account. 106,000. Sales of goods to Freedom as per invoice now. 106,000. Bills receivable account. Doctor. To Freedom. 106,000. December 4th. 3 months acceptance received from Freedom for the amount due from him. 106,000. Freedom. Doctor. To bills receivable account. 106,000. Freedom acceptance canceled because of renewal. 1,590. Freedom. Doctor. To interest. 1,590. Interest at 9% on 106,000 due from Freedom for 2 months because of renewal. 106,000. Bills receivable account. Doctor. Cash account. Doctor. 1,590. To Freedom. 107,590. 2023. February 7th. New acceptance for 2 months for 106,000 and cash for interest received from Freedom. 106,000. Cash account. Doctor. To bills receivable account. Cash received against Freedom's second acceptance. 106,000. 61,1414. Books of Freedom Journal. 2022. September 1st. Purchase account. Doctor. 106,000. To VJ A/C. Purchase of goods from VJ as per invoice now. 106,000. VJ A/C. Doctor. 106,000. To bills payables account. 106,000. December 4th. 3 months acceptance given to VJ for the amount. 106,000. Bills payable account. Doctor. To VJ A/C. 106,000. Cancellation of bill because of renewal. 1,590. Interest account. Doctor. To VJ. 1,590. Interest at 9% on 106,000 due to VJ for 2 months because of renewal. 107,590. VJ account. Doctor. To cash account. 1,590. To bills payable account. 106,000. 2023. February 7th. New acceptance for 2 months for 106,000 and cash for interest paid to VJ. 106,000. Bills payable account. Doctor. To cash account. Cash paid against second bill. 106,000. Illustration 3. On January 1st, 2022, Ankita sells goods 4500000 to Bhavika and draws a bill at 3 months for the amount. Bhavika accepts it and returns it to Ankita. On March 1st, 2022, Bhavika retires her acceptance under rebate of 12% per annum. Record these transactions in the journals of Ankita and Bhavika. Solution: journal entries in the books of Ankita. Date: 2022. Particulars: January 1st. Bhavika's account: Dr. 500000. To sales account: 500000. Being the goods sold to Bhavika on credit: 500000. Bills receivable account: Dr. To Bhavika's account: 500000. March 1st. Being the acceptance of bill received: 495000. Bank account: Dr. Rebate on bills account: Dr. 5000. To bills receivable account: being retirement of bill by Bhavika 1 month before maturity, the rebate being given to her at 12% PA. 500000. Journal entries in the books of Bhavika. Date: 2022. Particulars: January 1st. Purchases account: Dr. 500000. To Ankita account: 500000. Being the goods purchased from Ankita on credit: 500000. Ankita account: Dr. To bills payable account: 500000. Mar.1. Being the acceptance of bill: 500000. Bills payable account: Dr. To rebate income account: 5000. To bank account: being retirement of bill 1 month before maturity, the rebate being received at 12% PA. 495000. 611616. Illustration 4. Journalize the following transactions in Katrak's books. Katrak's acceptance to Basu for 2,500, discharged by a cash payment of 1,000 and a new bill for the balance plus 50 for interest. G. Gupta's acceptance for 4,000, which was endorsed by Katrak 10. Mehta was dishonored. Mehta paid 20 noting charges. Bill withdrawn against check. D. Dalal retires a bill for 2,000 drawn on him by Katrak for 10 discount. Katrak's acceptance to Patel for 5,000 was discharged by endorsing Modi's acceptance to Katrak for a similar amount. Solution: Books of Katrak journal entries. 1. Bills payable account: Dr. 2,500. Interest account: Dr. 50. To cash A/C: 1,000. To bills payable account: 1,550. 2. Bills payable to Basu discharged by cash payment of 1,000 and a new bill for 1,550, including 50 as interest. A. G. Gupta. Dr. 4,020. To M. Mehta. G. Gupta's acceptance for 4,000 endorsed to M. Mehta dishonored, 20 paid by M. Mehta as noting charges. 4,020. B. M. Mehta. Dr. 4,020. To bank account: 4,020. 3. Payment to M. Mehta on withdrawal of bill earlier received from Mr. G. Gupta. Bank account: Dr. 1,990. Discount account: Dr. 10. To bills receivable account: payment received from D. Dalal against his acceptance for 2,000. Allowed him a discount of 10. 2,000. 4. Bills payable account: Dr. 5,000. To bills receivable account. Bills receivable from Modi endorsed to Patel in settlement of bills payable issued to him earlier. 5,000. Illustration 5. On January 1st, 2022, Vilas draws a bill of exchange for 10,000 due for payment after 3 months on Aknoth. Aknoth accepts to this bill of exchange. On March 4th, 2022, Aknoth retires the bill of exchange at a discount of 12% PA. You are asked to show the journal entries in the books of Aknoth. Solution. Journal entries in the books of Aknoth. Date. 2022. Particulars. Debit. Credit. January 1st. Vilas A/C. Doctor. 10,000. To bills payable A/C. 10,000. March 4th. Being the bill draws by him accepted. 10,000. Bills payable A/C. Doctor. To Banc A/C. 9,900. To interest A/C. Discount A/C. Being retirement of acceptance 1 month before maturity. Interest allowed at 12% PA. 100. Illustration 6. On January 1st, 2022, Vilas draws a bill of exchange for 10,000 due for payment after 3 months on Aknoth. Aknoth accepts to this bill of exchange. On March 4th, 2022, Aknoth retires the bill of exchange at a discount of 12% PA. You are asked to show the journal entries in the books of Vilas. Solution. Journal entries in the books of Vilas. Date. 2022. Particulars. Debit. Credit. January 1st. Bills receivable A/C. Doctor. 10,000. To Aknoth A/C. Being bill of exchange drawn on Aknoth due for payment on April 4th, 2022. 10,000. 61, 1818. March 4th. Banc A/C. Doctor. 9,900. Interest A/C. Discount A/C. Doctor. 100. To bills receivable A/C. Being retirement of bill of exchange due for maturity on April 4th, 2022 by Aknoth 1 month before maturity, the rebate being given to him at 12% PA. 10,000. 15. Insolvency. Insolvency of a person means that he is unable to pay his liabilities. This means that bills accepted by him will be dishonored. Therefore, when it is known that a person has become insolvent, entry for dishonor of his acceptance must be passed. Later on, something may be received from his estate. When and if an amount is received, cash account will be debited and the personal account of the debtor will be credited. The remaining amount will be irrecoverable and, therefore, should be written off as bad debt. The students should be careful to calculate the amount actually received from an insolvent estate and amount to be written off only after preparing his account. In the books of drawee of the bill, the amount not ultimately paid by him due to insolvency should be credited to deficiency account. Illustration 7. Mr. David draws 2 bills of exchange on January 1st, 2022 for 6,000 and 10,000. The bills of exchange for 6,000 is for 2 months, while the bill of exchange for 10,000 is for 3 months. These bills are accepted by Mr. Thomas. On April 3rd, 2022, Mr. Thomas requests Mr. David to renew the first bill with interest at 18% PA for a period of 2 months. Mr. David agrees to this proposal. On March 20th, 2022, Mr. Thomas retires the acceptance for 10,000, the interest rebate i.e. discount being 100. Before the due date of the renewed bill, Mr. Thomas becomes insolvent and only 50 pays in a rupee could be recovered from his estate. You are to give the journal entries in the books of Mr. David. Solution. Journal entries in the books of Mr. David. 2022. January 1st. Bills receivable, number 1, A/C. Doctor. 6,000. Bills receivable, number 2, A/C. Doctor. 10,000. To Mr. Thomas's A/C. 16,000. March 4th. Being drawing of bills receivable number 1 due for maturity on April 3rd, 2022, and bills receivable number 2 due for maturity on April 4th, 2022. 6,000. Mr. Thomas's A/C. Doctor. To bills receivable number 1, A/C. 6,000. March 4th. Being the reversal entry for bill number 1 on agreed renewal. 6,180. Bills receivable number 3, A/C. Doctor. To interest A/C. 180. To Mr. Thomas's A/C. 6,000. March 20th. Being the drawing of bill of exchange number 3 due for maturity on July 5th, 2022, together with interest at 18% P.A. In lieu of the original acceptance of Mr. Thomas. 9,900. Bank A/C. Doctor. Discount A/C. Doctor. 100. To bills receivable number 2, A/C. Being the amount received on retirement of bills number 2 before the due date. 10,000. May 7th. Mr. Thomas's A/C. Doctor. 6,180. To bills receivable number 3, A/C. 6,180. May 7th. Being the amount due from Mr. Thomas on dishonor of his acceptance on presentation on the due date. 3,090. Bank A/C. Doctor. To Mr. Thomas's A/C. 3,090. May 7th. Being the amount received from official assignee of Mr. Thomas at 50 pays per rupee against dishonored bill. 3,090. Bad debts A/C. Doctor. To Mr. Thomas's A/C. Being the balance 50% debt in Mr. Thomas's account arising out of dishonored bill written as bad. 3,090. 61, 2020. Illustration 8. Rita owed 1,000,000 to Surname. On October 1st, 2021, Rita accepted a bill drawn by Surname for the amount at 3 months. Surname got the bill discounted with his bank $499,000 on October 3rd, 2021. Before the due date, Rita approached Surname for renewal of the bill. Surname agreed on the conditions that $50,000 be paid immediately together with interest on the remaining amount at 12% per annum for 3 months, and for the balance, Rita should accept a new bill at 3 months. These arrangements were carried out. But afterwards, Rita became insolvent and 40% of the amount could be recovered from his estate. Past journal entries, with narration, in the books of Surname. Solution. In the books of Surname journal entries. Particulars. Bills receivable A/C. Doctor. 1,000,000. To Rita. 1,000,000. Being a 3 months bill drawn on Rita for the amount due. 99,000. Bank A/C. Doctor. Discount A/C. Doctor. 1,000. To bills receivable A/C. 1,000,000. Being the bill discounted. 1,000,000. Rita. Doctor. To bank A/C. 1,000,000. Being the bill canceled up due to Rita's inability to pay it. 1,500. Rita. Doctor. To interest A/C. 1,500. Being the interest due on 50,000 at 12% for 3 months. 51,500. Bank A/C. Doctor. To Rita. Being the receipt of a portion of the amount due on the bill together with interest. 51,500. Bills receivable A/C. Doctor. 50,000. To Rita. Being the new bill drawn for the balance. 50,000. Rita. Doctor. 50,000. To bills receivable A/C. Being the dishonor of the bill due to Rita's insolvency. 50,000. Bank A/C. Doctor. 20,000. Bad debts A/C. Doctor, 30,000. To Rita, being the receipt of 40% of the amount due on the bill from Rita's estate. 50,000. 16. Accommodation bills. Bills of exchange are usually drawn to facilitate trade transmission. That is, bills are meant to finance actual purchase and sale of goods. But the mechanism of bill can be utilized to raise finance also. Suppose boss needs finance for 3 months. In that case, he may persuade his friend Kapoor to accept his draft. The bill of exchange may then be taken by boss to his bank and get it discounted there. Thus, boss will be able to make use of funds. When the 3 months period expires, boss will send the requisite amount to Kapoor and Kapoor will meet the bill. Thus, boss is able to raise money for his use. If both boss and Kapoor need money, the same device can be used. Either boss accepts the bill of exchange or Kapoor does. In either case, the bill will be discounted with the bank and the proceeds divided between the two parties according to mutual agreement. The discounting charges must also be borne by the two parties in the same ratio in which the proceeds are divided. On the due date, the acceptor will receive from the other party his share. The bill will then be met. When bills are used for such a purpose, they are known as accommodation bills. However, it may so happen that the drawer is not able to remit the proceeds to drawee on the due date. In such a case, the drawee may draw a bill on the drawer and get it discounted with the bank to honor the first bill. If the new drawee of the first bill, also remits some proceeds of the new bill to new drawer of the first bill, then the proportion of discount to be borne by the new drawee will be based upon the proceeds remitted as well as the benefit obtained by him on the first bill, i.e., by not paying the amount due to the original drawee on due date. Entries are passed in the books of two parties exactly in the way already pointed out for ordinary bills. The only additional entry to be passed is for sending the remittance for one party to the other party and also debiting the other party with the shared amount of discount. 61. 2222. Illustration 9. On July 1st, 2022, Gorge drew a bill 4180,000 for 3 months on Harry for mutual accommodation. Harry accepted the bill of exchange. Gorge had purchased goods worth 181,000 from Jack on the same date. Gorge endorsed Harry's acceptance to Jack in full settlement. On September 1st, 2022, Jack purchased goods worth 190,000 from Harry. Jack endorsed the bill of exchange received from Gorge to Harry and paid $9,000 in full settlement of the amount due to Harry. On October 1st, 2022, Harry purchased goods worth $200,000 from Gorge. Harry paid the amount due to Gorge by check. Give the necessary journal entries in the books of Harry, Gorge, and Jack. Solution. In the books of Harry journal entries. Date. Particulars. January 7th, 2022. Gorge's account. Doctor. 180,000. To bills payable account. Acceptance of bill drawn by Gorge. 180,000. January 9th, 2022. Jack's account. Doctor. 190,000. To sales account. 190,000. January 9th, 2022. Sales made to Jack. Bills receivable account. Doctor. 180,000. Bank account. Doctor. 9,000. Discount account. Doctor. 1,000. To Jack's account. 190,000. January 9th, 2022. Acceptance received from Jack's endorsement of bill received from Gorge 4180,000 and 9,000 received in full settlement of the amount due. Bills payable account. Doctor. 180,000. To bills receivable account. 180,000. January 10th, 2022. Own acceptance received from Jack's. Endorsement canceled. Purchase account. Doctor. 200,000. To Gorge's account. Purchases made from Gorge. 200,000. Gorge's account. Doctor. 20,000. To bank account. Amount paid to Gorge after adjusting 180,000 for accommodation extended to him. 20,000. In the books of Gorge. Journal entries. Date. Particulars. January 7th, 2022. Purchases account. Doctor. 181,000. To Jack account. 181,000. January 7th, 2022. Purchase of goods from Jack. 180,000. Bills receivable account. Doctor. To Harry account. 180,000. January 7th, 2022. Acceptance by Harry of bill drawn on him. 181,000. Jack's account. Doctor. To rebate account. 1,000. To bills receivable account. Harry's bill endorsed to Jack. 180,000. January 10th, 2022. Harry account. Doctor. 200,000. To sales account. 200,000. January 10th, 2022. Sales to Harry. 20,000. Bank account. Doctor. To Harry account. Amount received from Gorge after adjusting. 180,000 for accommodation extended by him. 20,000. In the books of Jack. Journal entries. Date. Particulars. January 7th, 2022. Gorge account. Doctor. 181,000. To sales account. Sold goods to Gorge. 181,000. 61,2424. January 7th, 2022. Bills receivable account. Doctor. 180,000. Rebate account. Doctor. 1,000. January 9th, 2022. To Gorge account. Being Harry's acceptance received from Gorge. 190,000. 181,000. Purchase account. Doctor. To Harry account. Purchase of goods from Harry. 190,000. January 9th, 2022. Harry account. Doctor. 190,000. To bills receivable account. To bank account. 180,009,000. To discount account. Endorsement of bill received from Gorge for RS. 180,000 to Harry and 9,000 rupees paid in full settlement of the amount due. 1,000. Illustration 10. X draws on YA bill of exchange for 30,000 on April 1st, 2022 for 3 months. Y accepts the bill and sends it to X, who gets it discounted for 28,800. X immediately remits 9,600 to Y. On the due date, X, being unable to remit the amount due, accepts a bill for 42,000 for 3 months, which is discounted by Y for 40,110. Y sends 6,740 to X. Before the maturity of the bill, X becomes bankrupt, his estate paying 50 pays in the rupee. Give the journal entries in the books of X and Y. Solution. In the books of X journal entries. Date. Particulars. Doctor in CR in January 4th, 2022. Bills receivables A/C. Doctor. 30,000. To YA/C. Being bill of exchange drawn on Mr. Y. 30,000. January 4th, 2022. Bank A/C. Doctor. 28,800. Discount charges A/C. Doctor. 1,200. To bills receivable A/C. Being the bills receivable discounted with the bank at a charge of 1,200. 30,000. January 4th, 2022. YA/C. Doctor. 10,000. To Bank A/C. 9,600. To discount charges. For 100. April 7th, 2022. Being the amount remitted to Y along with his share of the bank charges. YA/C. Doctor. 42,000. To bills payable A/C. Being the bills drawn by Y due to non-payment of earlier bill. 42,000. April 7th, 2021. Bank A/C. Doctor. 6,740. 20,000 plus 6,740. Discount charges A/C times 1 890. 40,110. Doctor. 1,260. To YA/C. Being the amount discounted and sent it by Y to X. 8,000. Bills payable A/C. Doctor. To Y's A/C. Being the bill due dishonored due to bankruptcy. 42,000. YA/C. Doctor. 28,000. To Bank A/C. 14,000. To deficiency account. Being the amount due to Y discharged by payment of 50 pays in a rupee. 14,000. In the books of Y. Journal entries. Date. Particulars. Doctor in. CR. In. January 4th, 2022. XA/C. Doctor. 30,000. To bills payable A/C. 30,000. January 4th, 2022. Being bill of exchange accepted and sent to Mr. X. 9,600. Bank A/C. Doctor. Discount charges A/C. Doctor. For 100. 61. 2626. To XA/C. 10,000. April 7th, 2022. Being the amount received from X on account of the bills receivable. 42,000. Bills receivable A/C. Doctor. April 7th, 2022. To XA/C. Being the bills accepted by X. 40,110. 42,000. Bank A/C. Doctor. Discount charges A/C. Doctor. 1,890. To bills receivable A/C. Being X acceptance discounted with bank. 30,000. 42,000. Bills payable A/C. Doctor. To Bank A/C. Being the amount met on the due date. 8,000. 30,000. XA/C. Doctor. To Bank A/C. 6,740. To discount account. Being the amount received and the discount debited to X. 1,260. XA/C. Doctor. 42,000. To Bank A/C. Being X's acceptance, which was discounted dishonored due to X's bankruptcy. 42,000. Bank A/C. Doctor. 14,000. Bad debts A/C. Doctor. 14,000. To XA/C. The amount received from X and the balance being written off as debt. 28,000. 17. Bills of collection. When a person receives a bill of exchange, he may decide to retain the bill till the date of maturity. But in order to ensure safety, he may send it to bank with instructions that the bill should be retained till maturity and should be realized on that date. This does not mean discounting because the bank will not credit the client until the amount is actually realized. If the bill is sent to the bank with such instructions, it is known as bill sent for collection. It is better to make a record of this also in books by passing following entry. Bills for collection account. To bills receivable account. When the amount is realized, the entry will be Doctor. Bank account. To bills for collection account. When the amount is not honored, the entry will be Doctor. Druise A/C, from whom the bill was received. Doctor. To bills for collections A/C. 18. Bills receivable and bills payable books. Bills receivable and bills payable books are journals, day books, to record in a chronological order the details of bills receivable and bills payable. When large number of bill transactions take place in an organization, it is convenient to maintain these books. Wherein any bill transaction takes place, the same is entered in the day books in the first instance. Postings to individual debtors' or creditors' accounts are made from the day books. Also, totals of bills received or accepted are posted periodically to bills receivable account and bills payable account respectively. Bills receivable book and bills payable book are very useful for following up the status of outstanding bills. When there are a large number of bills and these bills fall due on different dates, some of these bills may not be honored on maturity due to varied reasons. It is possible from these day books to trace the details of the outstanding bills and to identify the reasons for not honoring the bills. Given below are forms of day books for both bills receivable and bills payable. 61. 2828. Bills receivable book, folio no. Date of receipt. Voucher no. Party from whom? Received. Acceptor. Date of. Bill. Due date. Place of. Payment. AMT. Elif. Mode of. Disposal. Bills payable book, folio no. Date of acceptance. Drawer. Payee. Date of. Bill. Due date. Place of payment. AMT. Elif. Mode of disposal. Summary. A bill of exchange is defined as an instrument in writing containing an unconditional order signed by the maker directing a certain person to pay a certain sum of money only to or to the order of a certain person or to the bearer of the instrument. A promissory note is an instrument in writing, not being a bank note or currency note containing an unconditional undertaking signed by the maker to pay a certain sum of money only to or to the order of a certain person. Under Section 31(2) of the Reserve Bank of India Act, a promissory note cannot be made payable to bearer. A party which receives a promissory note or receives an accepted bill of exchange will treat it as a new asset under the name of bills receivable. A party which issues a promissory note or accepts a bill of exchange will treat it as new liability under the heading of bills payable. Test your knowledge. True and false. Bills payable account is a nominal account. Promise to pay is included in a bill of exchange. Days of rebate are added to the due date to arrive at the maturity date. Discount at the time of retirement of a bill is a gain for the drawee. Foreign bill is drawn in the country and payable outside the country. Promissory note is different from bill of exchange because the amount is paid by the maker in case of former and by the acceptor in the later. A has drawn a bill on V. B accepts the same and endorses the bill to C. A bill given to a creditor is called bills payable. Multiple choice questions. On January 1st, 2022, A draws a bill on B 4120,000 for 3 months. Maturity date of the bill will be January 4th, 2022, March 4th, 2022, April 4th, 2022. On June 16th, 2022, P draws a bill on Q 4125,000 for 30 days. July 19th is a public holiday. Maturity date of the bill will be July 19th, July 18th, July 17th. PQ draws a bill on XY for 130,000 on January 1st, 2022. XY accepts the same on April 1st, 2022 for period of 3 months after date. What will be the maturity date of the bill? April 4th, 2022, March 4th, 2022, July 4th, 2022. A draws a bill on B. A endorsed the bill to C. The payee of the bill will be A, B, C. A bill of 120,000 was discounted by Surname with the banker 4118,800. At maturity, the bill returned dishonored, noting charges 200. How much amount will the bank deduct from Surname's bank balance at the time of such dishonor? 120,000, 118,800, 120,200, 61, 30, 30. X draws a bill on Y for $300,000 on January 1st, 2022 for 3 months after sight. Date of acceptance is June 1st, 2022. Maturity date of the bill will be August 4th, 2022. September 4th, 2022. October 4th, 2022. X sold goods to Y for $500,000. Y paid cash for $30,000. X will grant 2% discount on balance, and Y request X to draw a bill for balance. The amount of bill will be $98,000, $68,000, $68,600. On January 1st, 2022, X draws a bill on Y for $500,000 for 3 months. X got the bill discounted April 1st, 2022 at 12% rate. The amount of discount on bill will be $15,000, $16,000, $18,000. Mr. J draws a bill on Mr. John for $300,000 on January 1st, 2022 for 3 months. On April 2nd, 2022, John got the bill discounted at 12% rate. The amount of discount will be $9,000, $6,000, $3,000. XZ draws a bill on YZ for $200,000 for 3 months on January 1st, 2022. The bill is discounted with banker at a charge of $1,000. At maturity, the bill returned dishonored. In the books of XZ for dishonor, the bank account will be credited by $199,000, $200,000, $201,000. On January 1st, 2022, XA draws a bill on YB for $100,000. At maturity, YB requests XA to renew the bill for 2 months at 12% PA interest. Amount of interest will be $2,000, $1,500, $1,800. A bill of exchange is drawn by a creditor, debtor, debenture holder. At the time of drawing a bill, the drawer credits bills receivables A/C, bills payable A/C, debtors A/C. A promissory note is made by a seller, purchaser, endorsee. A bill of exchange contains an unconditional order, a promise, a request to deliver the goods. A promissory note contains an unconditional order, a promise, a request to deliver the goods. The rebate on the bill shows that it has been endorsed. It has been paid after the date of maturity. It has been paid before the date of maturity. Notary public may charge his fee from the holder of bill of exchange. Drawer. None. 61, 32, 32. Theoretical questions. Write short notes on accommodation bill, renewal of bill, noting charges. What is bill of exchange? How does it differ from promissory note? Practical questions. On January 1st, 2022, A sells goods for $10,000 to B and draws a bill at 3 months for the amount. B accepts it and returns it to A. On March 1st, 2022, B retires his acceptance under rebate of 12% per annum. Record these transactions in the journals of B. A draws upon B 3 bills of exchange of $3,000, $2,000, and $1,000 respectively. A week later, his first bill was mutually canceled, B agreeing to pay 50% of the amount in cash immediately and for the balance plus interest $100. He accepted a fresh bill drawn by A. This new bill was endorsed to C, who discounted the same with his bankers for $1,500. The second bill was discounted by A at 5%. This bill on maturity was returned dishonored, nothing charged being $30. The third bill was retained till maturity when it was duly met. Give the necessary journal entries recording the above transactions in the books of A. Journalize the following in the books of Don. Bob informs Don that Ray's acceptance for $3,000 has been dishonored and noting charges are $40. Bob accepts $1,000 cash and the balance as bill at 3 months at interest of 10%. Don accepts from Ray his acceptance at 2 months plus interest at 12% PA. James owes Don $3,200. He sends Don's own acceptance in favor of Ralph for $3,160 in full settlement. Don meets his acceptance in favor of Singh for $4,500 by endorsing John's acceptance for $4,450 in full settlement. Ray's acceptance in favor of Don retired 1 month before due date. Interest is taken at the rate of 6% PA. And
I want to be clear. These examples are to represent or for you to associate with the types of transactions that are associated with mortgages and other secured instruments. Get a full understanding of what's going on. It may help to place yourself in the position of the holder of the note or the person who's drafting the note. And then from that perspective, you can follow along with who's doing what to whom. In a scenario described by this these examples can more similarly be used. I'll say not used, but this is the procedural method utilized in banking transactions that involve mortgages, because a mortgage is not a real thing. A mortgage is not a product or service, not a good or service being offered to you, which doesn't allow them to meet the criteria of drafting an order. And so in that manner, on the private side, and you're not understanding that this is occurring on the private side, they vaguely explain what's going on to allow you to assume a lot of things on your own, or to not give interest to the important factors of what's actually transacting. If you are making a promise to pay, who is that promise to pay being made to? Well, generally it's made to one person, okay? And for that purpose, you'll find defense lawyers of representation for people who had bound themselves to a mortgage contract may raise a defense that the person who is making the claim against their client does not have legal right to hold the note or make any legal claim on the note, because they acquired the note through a transfer of possession of the note. However, the general rule of thumb is that once that transfer occurs,
The right to possession of the note can be transferred, but the right to seek obligation does not transfer along with that because you didn't agree that you was gonna owe somebody else. You agreed that you would owe them a certain sum of money based on your agreement. And they took that note and um, more than likely they have already received the full amount on the note, but they don't transfer the record of the receipt of those finances. They only transfer you the right to hold the note. It's up to the person who's receiving the note to seek for standing in court to uh, call the loan due, or that's what they mean by on the date of maturity. It can mature if they call the loan due on demand or for any reason. Okay. For example, sometimes people try to transfer the ownership to somebody else. That automatically triggers uh, uh, the loan company to have grounds to which they can claim they have a right to call the loan due for the whole amount, sufficient to the fact that they cannot uh, hold another person liable for the obligation. They cannot then legally uh, make the person liable that you are transferring those rights to or property to. So they don't have an agreement or binding contract with that person. And so it's beneficial for them to try to seek a judgment before that approval of the transfer occurs. The problem with that in some of those circumstances, a lot of people don't know that the main reason that they are trying to hurry up and call the loan due is because they really didn't have uh, first-hand right. And so once it's transferred over second-hand, they definitely won't have a right to make a claim against whoever you transfer your rights to. Because you can transfer the rights without transferring liability if the transfer on its face, that means it's clearly and concisely written that the transfer of the rights of ownership or possession exists but not the right, not the any liabilities remains with the initial grantor is responsible for any liabilities associated with the property being transferred. It can be specifically verbalized in the contract when the transfer is made. That's why many times in cases the courts will ask for the sales contract, or should I say the transfer uh, purchase agreement, whatever they have, to indicate a business record that will reflect they have a right or standing in court. If their documentation is insufficient to do that, they may proceed to try to uh, act in spite of that and hope you don't call them on it. But any proficient lawyer or attorney can raise an objection of standing in that in a case of a mortgage, and that can be represented and argued in court very easily if the person is just aware of the standard law procedures concerning contracts and deeds. Period. Contracts and deeds. Contracts don't override, even if you have an agreement between you two, that agreement can't be contrary to the laws that govern that type of contract. In other words, there are certain laws and guidelines associated with um, conveying deeds to property, okay, transferring ownership of property, land. So there are some very strict guidelines that must be followed. If there's a change, the record needs to reflect what was the change, what, who, what, where, and why. All right. Why was this change made? What is it involving particularly? And details of what's actually being transferred. What are we transferring here? Are we transferring ownership? Or are we transferring trust? You know, trust in someone to take uh, possession and just use the property. I forgot what they call that. Tenant in common, or whatever they call it. As a tenant in common. All right. Now, a tenant in common meaning you gave them the right to. You may have given them the right to even to sell the property and sell their right to ownership. Okay. Um, but you may have not given them the right to sell the property itself. They can sell their rights to the property. Whatever rights that they have concerning the property, maybe you're giving them permission to lease the property. Well, then they can sell that permission to that right to use the property in that manner uh, for commercial gain, to lease the property for gain. So, in that regard, that doesn't mean they can sell the property or the land, the deed, It means that they hold uh, powers granted to them for the use of the property, for possession of the property. And so possession and ownership is two different things. We're going to get into that later because that's very extremely important. We've touched on it in times past, different broadcasts, but the terms will keep coming up because those terms are relative to any contract: who owns what and who possesses the right to do what. Thank you for joining us.